tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
But yeah, man, I mean, it's kind of a crazy time, right? I mean, when we, I watched that from afar, and it made me super sad. And it made me super sad to see all that happen. And because I know, as a guy like me who's been in LA and Hollywood, and kind of been talking about the things that are going on in the world, and sometimes it isn't always received. And I saw that happen to you, or received well. I saw it happen to you, and I was sad to see that, because I know you care a lot, and you're working really hard to get the word out on something that I said. It like almost seemed to be memory hold in some weird kind of way, right? I mean,
you talking about COVID now?
COVID, even 9/11, all of that, dude. It just seems that we as a society just keep moving, and it just really makes me sad.
Yeah, they don't want to be exposed. They don't want the table turned upside down. They don't want the deep state to be revealed. And that's what we do with the truth about 9/11 and the destruction of all three of these World Trade Center skyscrapers on 9/11. It's like being hit over the head by a 2x4, and they know it. So they have been censoring us for 2 decades. It is, you can call it sad. I would say tragic. It's what made me really angry when I woke up to what really happened here, 2006. It was just shocking to realize that the government and the media had colluded to suppress this evidence that I heard on the radio from David Ray Griffin, who was being interviewed in the San Francisco Bay Area by Bonnie Faulkner. I'd never heard any alternative theory as to how these towers came down. And man, when I was pissed off because I didn't believe it. I thought this guy, David Ray Griffin, who's now written 14 books on this subject, I thought he was lying. So, man, I was pissed off. I was going to prove him wrong. And boy, it opened my mind up to not only 9/11, but a host of other conspiracies in this world. So I got my tinfoil hat and I joined your brigade.
Love it. You come sit in the front with us, dude. It's more comfortable. Don't sit in the back, sit in the front with us. I'm with you, man. It starts to open up a whole entire, once you see one thing, it kind of has this ripple effect to a lot of things, because it almost spider webs into this kind of shadow group. I call them apex predators. These apex predators who have been manipulating all parts of our reality, a false reality. Me personally, this kind of false reality that has been projected onto God's reality. That's just for me personally, and it's kind of super sad. I just was on Tim Pool. Tim Pool got in trouble on TikTok because I was talking about energy vampires, and it's kind of crazy that, like, of all the things I could talk about, that is the nicest of them. And we see him getting dinged, and it led to he had another ding for something else on TikTok, and he lost his account.
Well, remember what got us dinged on YouTube was very similar in tone and subject matter to that energy vampire thing you're talking about.
Yeah,
we thought it had to be a mistake, but
high vibrational versus low vibrational action.
Very similar.
And it just becomes this thing that it's just like, once you see it, it's hard to not see, and it just makes me sad. It's hard to not see. It makes me sad because people like you, who are so well educated and trained in the, many different sciences, that that people like you, because of what you say, can be excommunicated from society in a weird way, and it's very weird to me. It's very weird. It's like trust all doctors, trust all science, trust all that, as long as it's saying what we already agree with.
Yeah, exactly. This science, trust the science. Well, then COVID came along right in 2020. And that's what got me in trouble with my organization because we have 3,600 architects and engineers demanding a new investigation, not into COVID, but into the destruction of these 3 skyscrapers by controlled demolition, which will show the evidence today. And all of a sudden, it's like, I got to talk about this, guys. This is what's happening. This is what's happening right now. Another 9/11, a real false flag operation unfolding before us. This false disease, which has been engineered, and the false solution that they call vaccines, which are not vaccines at all. So I had to talk about it. And so Kevin Ryan had developed the parallels between 9/11 and COVID. And I go, oh my God, you're absolutely right. So I took it and I ran with it. It's now a 2-hour presentation that we also have on our website.
And what is that website?
It's richardgage911.org.
All right. Well, we're live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. That's right. Go to samtriple.gold. Use the promo code tinfoil, and you can get on the precious metals game for as little as $50 a month. We're very thankful that they sponsor the show. He is a San Francisco lawyer. He's a San Francisco Bay. He just took off what I was saying. San Francisco Bay Area architect Richard Gage, AIA, member of the American Institute of Architects, and founder and former CEO of the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. He now leads the charge for a new World Trade Center investigation, along with his courageous wife, Gail, at richardgage911.org. Please welcome Richard Gage.
Well, thank you. Awesome to be here with you guys. It is so important that this information be disseminated and understood because it's just not out there enough. People don't have the chance to see, the incredible evidence of extreme heat that the official narrative can't account for. For instance, not to mention the third tower that collapsed on 9/11, World Trade Center Building 7. Man, I'm so excited about going into it with you here.
I'm very excited about that. Real quick, if you want to see me live, I'm this weekend, or hopefully this comes out tomorrow, Louisville, Kentucky. We'll be with Eddie Bravo in Louisville, Kentucky, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, there we go. Detroit, Michigan. And finally, we will be in Tacoma, Washington. So grab that. Richard, now I've been hearing a lot of your discussion on these other buildings. Let me ask you something, and maybe you're going to get into it later. Do you look into Building 5 at all? Building 6, excuse me.
Sure. All the buildings show evidence of destruction. In fact, at the 9/11 Commission, there's somebody testifying molten metal dripping down the walls of Building 6. It has huge holes in it. There was an attempted controlled demolition there as well.
Yes, of course. So we have your website up, Richard. I'm glad you're crushing it. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with World Trade Center 7. It takes a lot of courage, by the way. Let's just acknowledge that. I mean, you and I have been at it for some time now, Sam, and all the guys here. But a lot of people who will share this with friends that they don't even they haven't talked to about 9/11. They say, "Look at this. There's 3,600 architects demanding a new investigation." But when they start to see this, their world is going to turn upside down. It's not fun. It's a psychological trauma, actually.
Yeah, I agree with you, Richard. And it's like, it's almost why they do resist it so much. We've talked a lot about on this show, the analogy of we're just, humans being mammals and these apex predators coming and just picking off a couple of us, and the herd just keeps moving, and it's just the herd never wants to go, hey, why is this happening? Does it need to keep happening? And it's super interesting, the resistance to all this, the resistance that, you know, when you came on my last show, you were talking about Brian Callen. You know, Brian's great. Since then, he's come really open-minded to a lot of the stuff. It's been pounded into him. But, you know, this notion that, like, you can believe that, let's say, a Putin's a bad guy. I'm not getting into the politics of that. I'm just using an example. Like, a Putin's a bad guy, or a Stalin's a bad guy, or a Hitler's a bad guy, or whoever over there is a bad guy over there. Mm-hmm. The notion that those same people, the people of on equal footing as those people over here, couldn't be the same thing. Couldn't be the level of psychopath, couldn't be willing to sacrifice their own to gain political and financial gains is interesting to me.
Oh, it's fascinating. We are manipulated with disinformation from over the since the beginning of this country, probably. Yeah. Certainly at the start of the Civil War and on, when America became a corporation. And they started manipulating us radically. It's just been really bad. But that's why I start, by the way, to reduce this shock with something that most people don't even know about. In fact, Sam, most architects and engineers know nothing about the third worst structural failure in modern history. And this happened on 9/11. It's not one of the Twin Towers. It's the third skyscraper that came down. And we go to conferences all over the country, and we have our booth, and we show on a screen Building 7 coming down. And we go, do you know what this is? And the architects go, well, that's a controlled demolition. Well, you're darn right. Did you know when it happened? No, that happened on 9/11. What? That's not one of the Twin Towers. No, it certainly isn't. It's dwarfed, in fact, next to the Twin Towers. But the Twin Towers were the tallest buildings in the world when they were designed. But this building would be the tallest building in most of our states. It's huge. Each floor is an acre in size. Ooh. It was about, a football field in length away from the North Tower. And when the North Tower went down that morning, some of the beams actually hit this building. So there was an investigation, but by NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, who was tasked by Congress to explain these collapses to the American people. And they said, no, the damage, it wasn't the damage from the building. Well, what was it? We'll find out. But take a look at this collapse. I mean, many people have never seen this before. Again, this should have been the most studied failure in history. It's the third worst structural failure after the Twin Towers in modern history. And so here it goes down smoothly, symmetrically. Have you ever seen that before?
Never, dude. That is so crazy. We just accepted that. Just like,
well, we didn't. No, they didn't even show it on TV except for 2 occasions. And then 7 years later, they had this insane presentation. It was surreal by Shyam Sundar of NIST. This is what he says.
What we found was that uncontrolled building fires caused an extraordinary event. The collapse of World Trade Center 7 was primarily due to fire.
Oh, my God, man. How do you say that?
Should we look at those fires? Here they are, Sam. They're few, they're small, and they're scattered throughout the building. These are the worst fires that we have in the building. And so NIST says, yeah, those fires brought it down. In fact, here's how bad those fires were. They're, up till almost the time of the collapse, they're burning, completely engulfing this northeast corner of the building near column 79, which they fault as buckling and causing the complete collapse of this building. Well, guess what? Those fires are burned out on that floor at that time where they're showing them completely engulfed.
Wow.
So it is a complete lie. And that's just the beginning of their lies. I mean, look at the history of fires in high-rise buildings. We've not lost one steel frame fire protected structure ever in history due to fire. Not before 9/11 here, not after 9/11. And there's dozens and dozens of much hotter, larger, and longer lasting buildings.
Look at that middle one. That thing's done.
And those none of those collapsed.
No.
None of them collapsed. No. Not one. Not one that even looked like them. not in a steel frame, fire protected building, which is most all of these skyscrapers. So we got to ask ourselves, what did bring this building down? Take a look. Let's compare it to a known controlled demolition, a series on the left, building 7 on the right.
To the T.
Hey, is there any similarity? Is there enough similarity to warrant an investigation into the possible use of explosives?
Is there anything that isn't similar?
Can I just say this is almost more professionally done than some of the controlled demolitions we're seeing on the left.
Yeah,
Oh, it's beautiful.
It looks cleaner.
You're right.
You're totally right,
Dude,
Johnny. Like that one
It's
doesn't
perfect.
even. Yep, you're totally right,
Some of them
Johnny.
are falling out of time. You can see kind of the
They're
one
not
side
falling
is going
like
for,
in a unit.
They did a great job with this controlled demolition. I have to say.
I mean,
Fantastic.
They must be proud of themselves.
Yeah,
And in this case, they're not going to be tried for murder and treason because this building, according to the official narrative anyway, had nobody in it when it went down. Almost did. I'll show you a couple of them who almost lost their lives in there. So we have to ask ourselves, well, what are the features of controlled demolition? Here they are. And does Building 7 have any of those in its destruction? Well, let's start at the beginning. Feature number 1. Is there a sudden onset of destruction? Here's Dan Rather using his intuition on that afternoon or evening to just try to understand what's happening.
What you're seeing are high shots. Now, here we're going to show you a videotape of the collapse.
This is a CBS
Video.
News.
Yeah. Yeah, the day of, night of.
It's amazing. Amazing, incredible, pick your word. For the third time today, it's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
Damn.
Whoa!
He said it right there on national television.
For those
We never
listening at
said it
home, that
after
was
that
a
day.
CBS News video story.
You'll
with-
never see that again.
with it's unbelievable. Dan Rather calling it in real time.
Yeah. Well, and he's seen the old hotels in Las Vegas, right? We all have. So we have a frame of reference for this destruction, which is why they sweep it under the rug and have never showed it, except for maybe 2 times on mainstream television. Again, this should have been the most studied structural failure ever. Feature number 2, is there a straight down symmetrical collapse? Let's look from West Street. Pretty darn straight down and symmetrical. How do you do that, Sam? You got to take out all the core columns within a fraction of a second of each other, followed about a second later by the perimeter columns. And you got to ask yourself, do these fires have that capability of that precision
So
to take
uneven,
all those columns out?
So uneven.
Hey, if you, what?
The fires are so uneven. Yeah, you're
Oh, they're completely uneven. They're scattered. They're few. They're small. Look what happens if you don't get controlled demolitions just right. Instead of going down, it rolls on to the next
Oh,
building.
wow.
Or-
You're right.
Or it doesn't go all the way over. Somebody's got to go back in and fix that controlled demolition.
Imagine
no.
if that's your job.
They did a great job. Again,
If
they
a
did a great
building
job.
is damaged on one side or a corner, like in
no.
Building 7, it will fall over. And that's what happens. We expect that. This is natural.
If you're listening,
Fifth
we're watching buildings just fall over on their side.
And this
into other
one,
buildings.
for those who saw Dog Man, this is exactly looks like the movie, but the one building is falling over into the other building.
Oh man, it's incredible.
Is there a high rise that actually went down with fire so we can compare? Is there any high rise?
said there's
There's
never
none
been
ever, like
one.
in the whole in other countries.
There is a high rise that was not a type 1 fire protected steel frame structure, which most all of them are, but one in Brazil, Sao Paulo, it went down, but it had incredible fuel loads, no fire protection on the steel whatsoever, and it had concrete main pillars. It's just not comparable whatsoever. So we got to ask ourselves now, how fast did this building come down? Well, David Chandler, physics teacher, measured it, and many others did too. It comes down at free fall. How fast is that? That's as fast as a bowling ball falling out of the sky. No resistance, getting faster and faster every second. The definition of acceleration. But what is that happening through? Well,
Oh my God.
30,000 tons of
That's
structural
crazy.
steel, 3 to 5 times stronger than it needed to be to hold that building up. This is an incredible structure.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. I trust them with all my precious metals, and you should too. Let me tell you a little bit about Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. If you're paying attention, you know that de-dollarization is real. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Gold and silver have been money through all of recorded history and are an excellent way to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's why I trust my friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all precious metals, all things precious metals. I love it. I am part of the Wolf Pack. Every month I have precious metals sent right to my house, and I love it. See, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver is veteran owned and A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or too small. You can even roll over your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, think again. With the Wolfpack monthly membership program, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. As little as $50 a month. You can have precious metals. You start loading it up, man. By the end of the year, you'll have a good chunk of precious metals. Dude, it's crazy. You just go to samtripoli.gold. You can see all the different plans they have. Man, it's like $50. Lone Wolf, Warrior Wolf, $125. Alpha Wolf is $250. And it just keeps going up. Sent to your house. Right there. It's that simple. It's that simple. Easy peasy. Get in, get out, get your gold, get your silver. I love it. I'm doing it. Dude, I'm telling you, all of these affiliates I use, and I use Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. I use it all the time. It's real simple. So if you want to get in, this is how you do it. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. So here's what I need you to do, okay? Go to samtripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive free constitutional silver. That's right. And remember, in a world of bulls and bears, be the wolf. You guys listening at home, I can't express to you how shocking it is how much steel was used to build this foundation.
And what do you call these beams? Because some of those were in width, the height of a man, like as tall as a man is in width.
Yeah, the vertical ones are columns, and those are the ones that resist the loads of the building falling straight down. And yet you're going to see that not one of these columns or these beams, the horizontal ones, gave any resistance. And NIST even acknowledges this after denying it for 7 years. They put out their final report. They were forced to admit that it did come down at free fall because of David Chandler, Stephen Jones, and other scientists who said, no, this is easily measurable. You have to acknowledge this. Well, NIST finally, in their report, they slipped this in there. Okay, yeah, it came down for a third of its fall in free fall. Well, what does that mean? That means that not one of these 81 columns in this building gave any resistance for a third of its fall. Now, where did they go? Did these fires take those columns out? What's going on here? We're going to get to the bottom of it. Don't worry. Because what we see is that those columns are completely dismembered, one from another. It falls like a house of cards, this building. A 47-story moment-resisting steel frame building. All the columns and beams have been severed, so it could fall like a house of cards in a 4 to 6 story pile. Buildings that collapse naturally do not do that. You can recognize the building. The columns and beams are not severed one from another. The concrete is not pulverized to a fine powder, which we can look at too. Can these fires cause that building to do that? No, again. So we have to say, what can? Well, let's listen to a series of witnesses who heard what? Explosions.
Oh, my God.
This is Daryl, a medical student.
We were watching the building actually because it was on fire. The bottom floors of the building were on fire, and we heard this sound that sounded like a clap of thunder. Turned around, we were shocked to see that the building was it looked like there was a shock wave ripping through the building, and the windows all busted out. And it was horrifying. And then about a second later, the bottom floor caves out. And the building followed after that, and we saw the building crash down all the way to the ground.
A sound of a clap of thunder, a shock wave ripping through the building, the windows busting out, and then the building coming down about a second later. Pretty darn exacting of a controlled demolition. How about Kevin McPadden, former Air Force medic?
You heard explosions, like boom. It's like a distinct sound. It's not like when in compression, like boom, 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 like floors that were dropping and collapsing. This was boom, and like you felt a rumble in the ground, like almost like you wanted to grab onto something. That, to me, I knew that was an explosion. There was no doubt in my mind.
That's pretty clear. What did Bill Rosati see?
I was standing like 2 blocks away, and all of a sudden I just seen a big flash, and then I seen the building coming down, and I just seen people just running everywhere.
A flash?
Chaotic.
Okay, this is getting more interesting. Listen to Captain Richard Patterson of the FDNY.
1-7 let go as well, and was a series of concussive explosions.
And Patrick Dillon, first responder.
I remember feeling that like it was like freight trains underneath the earth, shaking the earth, even shaking me. That's when we all saw Building 7 crumple in the middle, like way up at the top. It buckled and then dropped.
Okay, how about Richard Ratans, who was the New York City Office of Emergency Management Deputy Director? He went into the building at about noon, and this is his experience.
And then he had to go into that building to assess it.
You could hear the building creak above us. You could hear things fall. You could hear the fire burning. You could see columns just hanging from the upper floors, gaping holes in the floors up above us. There was an elevator car that was blown out of its shaft, and it was down the hall.
Whoa! An elevator car blown out of the shaft, 30 feet, he clarified later, down the hall. Imagine the explosion that it would take to blow an elevator cab out of its shaft, landing 30 feet down the hall.
Wow. Wait, when did he go in? Relative to the...
This was at noon, and it was after the towers collapsed, certainly. But these explosions are experienced before the towers collapsed, as you'll see in a moment. And what they claim, NIST claims this was damage due to when the beams hit the outside of the building. But he's talking about interior of the building, not the outside. Floors, gaping holes in them up above him, columns dangling, and this elevator shaft. Well, listen to Barry Jennings describe his and Mayor Giuliani's attorney, Michael Hess, their experience. They were called to an emergency meeting on the 23rd floor where the emergency management center was, and everybody had been evacuated out of the building by the time they got there, but they didn't know it. What? They went up to the 23rd floor. They found it empty. None of the towers had come down yet until after after they had this experience.
When we got to the 8th floor, I started walking to one side of the building. That side of the building was gone. The first explosion I heard when I was on the stairwell landing, when we made it down to the 6th floor. Then we made it back to the 8th floor. I heard some more explosions.
What's the sound?
Like a boom. Like an explosion.
And more than one?
Yes. We started walking down the stairs. We made it to the 8th floor.
Oh my
Big
God.
explosion. Blew us back into the 8th floor. When we get outside, police officer comes to me and says, you have to run. We have more information of bombs, so you have to run.
Well, when they got outside, the towers had already collapsed. So this was well before the towers collapsed. Why are they saying there's information of bombs? Bombs like this heard in the late morning of 9/11?
When we got to the 8th Yeah, here's one of the guys who can tell you I'm okay, all right? Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
Whoa!
You got to get back.
Whoa,
This
okay,
says
for those listening, that was two guys on the phone calling family, tell them that they're okay, and then all of a sudden they hear a giant explosion. They turn around in shock. Wow!
You got to watch this
This
podcast.
is in the late morning of 9/11 near Building 7. And NIST says, there's no witnesses of explosions. They claim to have interviewed over 100 first responders. And they missed not only these, but the 156 I'm gonna show you as well. It's crazy. So if there was an explosive set in the building, people would know about it in advance, right? Like Chief Nick Viscani, who says, hey, we're moving the command post over this way. That building, Building 7, is coming down. And sure enough, it comes down.
Wow.
Listen to Chief Hayden, though. This is incredible.
Well, we had our special operations people set up surveying instruments to monitor and see if there was any movement of the building. We're concerned of the possibility of collapse of the building. And we had a discussion with one particular engineer there, and we asked him if we allowed it to burn, could we anticipate a collapse, and if so, how soon? And it turned out that he was pretty much right on the money, that he said in its current state you have about 5 hours.
Wait a minute. Never before in history has a steel frame fire protected structure come down due to fire alone. And all of a sudden he's saying, and this one's different. This one's going to come down. In fact, it's going to come down in 5 hours. And it did. It's incredible. They won't release the name of this engineer who apparently put a transit on the building and was monitoring it. So we don't get to know that, nor do we get to know who these mysterious construction workers are who heard an explosion over their shoulder as they're walking away from Building 7. They look back at the building, and then they look straight into the CNN camera and saying this.
Keep your eye on that building. It'll be coming down. The building is about to blow up. Move it back. Here. All right, guys. We are looking back. There's a building about to blow up. On flame. Debris coming down.
What? The building is about to blow up?
That is
flame and
shocking.
debris coming down. Come on. Not only do they know it's going to come down, but it's going to blow up also. Which
shocking,
it did, of course.
Shocking.
Now, what caused it to blow up? Maybe Kevin McPadden can help us again. Before we heard his testimony of explosions, but before that, he's held back by several blocks by behind the yellow caution tape with everybody else, and he's listening to a radio held in the hands of what he thought was a Red Cross worker. And this is what he hears.
At the last few seconds, he took his hand off, and you heard 3, 2, 1.
Oh, it did blow up. That's incredible.
Holy
Do fires bring
cow.
buildings down to countdowns? I mean, just think of what we're learning here. This is absolutely incredible. And then the BBC announced the collapse of this building 20 minutes before it even happened.
Oh, my God.
Building collapse in New York, you might have heard a few moments ago, was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. And indeed it has. Apparently that's only a few hundred yards away from where the World Trade Center towers were. And it seems that this was not a result of a new attack. It was because the building had been weakened during this morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy.
Sketchy indeed. They apologize for this grievous error, citing the confusing events of the day. But they're going to tell us about how that building collapsed 20 minutes before it happened. What does that make them psychic or something? What's going on here? CNN did better, though. They announced it at 11:07 that morning.
In New York, Alan Dodd-Frank joins us on the phone in Lower Manhattan. Alan?
Aaron, just 2 or 3 minutes ago, there was yet another collapse or explosion. I'm now out of sight. A Good Samaritan has taken me in on Duane Street. But at 11:15, there was, following the 10:30 collapse of the second tower. And a firefighter who rushed by us estimated that 50 stories went down. The street filled with smoke. It was like a forest fire roaring down a canyon.
50 stories went. There was no other 50-story build. There was no other building that went down. There were some damaged buildings, but they're talking about building 7 here, 47 stories, 50 stories. It's like, excuse me, how did you know that? Was it supposed to go down at that time? Because if it did, guess what, Sam? We'd never hear about it. We wouldn't have any videos of it. Those videos would have been completely obscured by the massive dust cloud released when the Twin Towers went down.
Oh, so that's when you think it was supposed to go? For those at home, this is an amazing picture of and we can get into the dustification of these buildings and all this smoke and dust and all this. So what you're saying, Richard, is like, if this had gone down when they thought nobody would know anything because it would have been camouflaged by the smoke and soot.
And so were those mysterious construction workers who were walking away from this building and saying, hey, it's going to blow up, were they fixing a dud that didn't go off at this time and making it so it could go off eventually, which it did, and everybody knew it was coming down in about 5 hours. In fact, Captain Richard Patterson says he was talking to somebody as they were looking at the fires in Building 7 with Chief Fox, and they're saying, we got to get somebody on that fire. And so a guy walks by, he heard them, and he says, that building will be coming down at about 5 o'clock. It's incredible. We've got him on tape saying that too.
That's unbelievable.
It truly is.
Oh, totally.
And this is like kind of gets into something, whereas, you see this where they'll be like, why did this news website have that this event was going to happen before it comes out? And we see that happen a lot in these like what we call high impact events, where they're meant to kind of shift us culturally in different ways. You'll see like an article will come out like 2 hours before it happens. You're like, why did that come out? How did they know that was happening? We've seen it.
They try to get the narrative out early and control it.
Yeah.
And so they blow it once in a while. They make mistakes, all kinds of mistakes with COVID.
This is the most insane quote of all time.
Oh, wait till you hear this. This is the building's developer, Larry Silverstein, interviewed a year later, and he just kind of lets it slip here.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
What?
They made the decision to pull. Pull it is a term used in the controlled demolition industry. Yeah. Firefighters put out buildings. They don't pull buildings.
Yeah.
And he says later, I didn't mean pull it. I meant pull the firefighters out. Well, guess what? They were not allowed to fight the fires. They were told it was going to come down on its own, and they were hanging out at a restaurant a block away, just wondering what to do with themselves at about this time.
Oh my God, where have we heard that? LA fires? Not allowing firefighters to go fight?
Is that why your hat is upside down?
Yeah, LA's under siege. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That is incredible, dude. That is incredible.
Oh, tell me about it. Even FEMA and NIST acknowledged no firefighting operations. So they were wanting something to happen here, and it's corroborated by one of the top European controlled demolition firms.
Danny Jowenko is the expert on this in Europe. What did he say?
Dit is controlled demolition. Zeker weten. Zeker weten. Er is nagesprongen.
It's been imploded.
Dit is in opdracht gebeurd.
It's a hired job.
Een team gedaan van experts.
Done by a team of experts.
Richard, and real quick, I don't want to get too far away from it, but when he says pull it, like you have to have something set up to pull it. You
and I think correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't it come from someone literally pulling like a string or whatever?
Yeah, well, it's whatever says.
In the old days.
Basically pull it so it but like to pull it, you must have something set up to pull.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's that, it's the old days, like the like in the cartoons,
TNT,
like
where he pulls the TNT, where the what is it?
Because think about what along the lines, it'd be like, oh, I said pull it, which meant, even if he said before the fire thing. Okay,
also,
you're saying pull it.
You wouldn't say it about people, firefighters.
Yeah, 100%.
Remember, firefighters were revered around that time.
Yeah,
you wouldn't call it it.
You wouldn't call them
they still
it.
are, obviously.
And you would have to go, if you're saying this was called in the moment, you would have to go in there and set up all the detonations. That makes no sense.
Oh, no, yeah.
And if you would say, pull them out.
Yeah.
Pull them out.
Get them out of there.
Yeah, not pull it out. Yeah, this is before pronouns. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't even in. You wouldn't even say that because they weren't in to be pulled out.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed to go in.
Guys, I'm going to tell you something. We are seeing, historical, unprecedented population collapse. And there's only one way to stop it, and that is Pound Town. And that's why I want to tell you about our good friends at Blue Chew. That's right, Blue Chew, American made for American boners, for American ladies or dudes, if you're into that. Let me tell you about Blue Chew. Listen, you got to get rock hard for the future, and the only way we can do that is Blue Chew. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but for a fraction of the cost. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their online medical providers, and once you're approved, you will get your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA, and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Cannot stand that. Thank you, Blue Chew. You take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever the opportunity arises, okay? Blue Chew is for Americans. Blue Chew wants to make men rock hard. They told me, that's our mission. That's the mission, okay? They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick shit house, okay? Till every tent is pitched. Till every rod is raised.
Make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use the promo code TINFOIL. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code TINFOIL, one word. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety info. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast.
So there's all these structural engineers, 36 of them, among the 3,600 signed on to the petition demanding a new investigation, like Kamal Obeid from California. A localized failure in a steel frame building like World Trade Center 7 can't cause a catastrophic collapse like a house of cards without a simultaneous and patterned loss of several of its columns at key locations in the building.
Wow.
Are those fires going to do that? No. So this caught the attention of one of the top forensic structural engineers in the country, Professor Leroy Hulsey of the University of Alaska, who he and his team of PhD students spent 4 years doing the finite element analysis that NIST was tasked to do, but which failed miserably. And I'll show you proof of that again. But they had two competing software programs, and they corroborated each other, SAP 2000 and Abacus. And they said, gosh, columns 79, 80, and 81 in the northeast corner couldn't possibly bring the building down straight because we took out those columns. And look what happens when we did. The building falls over, right? Well, what do we have to do? We have to take all the columns out at once. And then on the left is the computer model of Alaska. It falls straight down uniformly, symmetrically, mimicking exactly what happened in the building.
Yeah, look at that.
As shown in the videos.
That?
But compare that now to NIST's computer model on the right, where it begins to tip over after it crumples up. So they'd stop it after 2 seconds because they don't want us to see it tipping over. It would look nothing like the video. Awesome. So they spent 7 years trying to reverse engineer this, and they still couldn't get it to fall like it falls in reality. So the University of Alaska's findings fire didn't cause the collapse of this building. The temperatures were not high enough to cause the weakening of the steel framing. Thermal expansion did not result in a loss of support for the beams and girders. The collapse of this building was a global failure involving what? The near simultaneous failure of all the columns in the building, not a progressive collapse, as claimed by NIST. So they completely pulled the rug out from underneath NIST, and this 4-year study is going around creating all kinds of controversy. So then what could have, because they didn't speculate what could have taken all those columns out or cut them, right? Which is what we're really talking about here. Well, we go to FEMA, who did the first report, and they did a metallurgical examination. They put it in Appendix C of the Building Performance Assessment Team report in May of 2002. What did they find in their metallurgical examination of the steel from Building 7? Never before observed eutectic reactions, intergranular melting, capable of turning a solid steel girder into Swiss cheese. Fires don't do this to steel. Steel takes 3,000 degrees to melt. Fires only get about half of that, and in the worst cases. So what's going on here? Well, it gets deeper. Rapid oxidation, sulfidation. Sulfur, where does sulfur come from? Liquid iron. That's, by the way, molten iron. That's 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Sulfur formed during this hot corrosion attack on the steel. This is a honest report. What did NIST do with this report? They threw it out. They completely ejected it when they took over the investigation with $20 million of your tax money and threw out this metallurgical examination and all of the witnesses that you've already heard of explosions in the building. But FEMA author himself said, Jonathan Barnett, fire protection engineer, steel members in the debris pile appear to have been partly evaporated in extraordinarily high temperatures. Wait a minute. It takes 4,000 degrees to evaporate steel. And yet there it is in this piece of World Trade Center 7 steel, documented by structural engineer and professor from Berkeley, Abelhausen Astani Azel, who had a National Science Foundation grant to study the steel. He doesn't know how this happened. He presumes it happened down in the pile. But wait a minute. The fires were put out by the mechanical action of the building collapsing. Certainly, those that were still burning, maybe one on a certain floor. Well, we have evidence of a whole lot more heat than that.
Whoa!
We can see the dripping molten metal, steel or iron, falling out of the material held in the crab claw excavator. Oh. We know what its temperature is because of its color. That's the emissivity of molten metals.
Whoa!
Like this. We're exceeding 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Fires don't get half that hot, typically a quarter of that hot, really. Most fires 500 or 600 degrees. So wow, what's going on here exceeding 2,500 degrees to white hot, even hotter than this? Well, jet fuel is certainly not a factor. No plane hit this building, right? Mm-hmm. But even in the Twin Towers, the jet fuel engineer specifications for jet fuel here say it burns in open air only about 600 degrees. Others say it can burn hotter than that, but maximum 1,500 degrees. And fires can get that hot in absolute laboratory conditions, maybe even up to 1,830 degrees. But we're talking twice those temperatures. What can create those temperatures is the question of the day. Can thermite create them?
An incendiary used by the military, thermite is a compound of iron oxide and aluminum, which when ignited sustains an extreme heat reaction, creating molten iron. In just 2 seconds, thermite can reach temperatures over 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit.
Whoa!
Quite enough to liquefy steel.
Whoa!
Open-air fires cannot burn hot enough to melt steel, but metal had melted at the base of the towers. Appendix C of the FEMA report describes sulfur residues on the World Trade Center steel. The New York Times called this the deepest mystery of all. Sulfur slightly lowers the melting point of iron, and iron oxide and iron sulfide had formed on the surface of the structural steel. Sulfur used with thermite is called thermate, producing even faster results.
Well, maybe we're getting somewhere here.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
Almost 5,000 degrees.
Yeah, it can evaporate steel. And it also would explain not only the incredible temperatures that are documented here, but the presence of sulfur, which is added to thermite to become thermate, much more effective at cutting through steel. And this couldn't explain where the sulfur came from. They speculated it might have come from the gypsum board. Wait a minute. Gypsum board has been used for 100 years to protect steel. It's never turned around and attacked the steel that it's designed to protect.
Wow.
It's absolutely ludicrous, these answers we get from them. But it would also explain the presence of molten iron microspheres found in the World Trade Center dust. All the dust, like every bit of it, has been analyzed by the U.S. Geological Survey. In 2005, they produced their particle atlas. What do they find? Billions of previously molten, that's 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, iron. That's the byproduct of thermite. Thermite, molten iron, and spherical. How do they get spherical? We'll come back and look at that. But this is a signature component of the World Trade Center dust, and yet they have no idea where these tons of molten iron microspheres came from. But they say it's used to distinguish the World Trade Center dust from other dust illegally. But where did it come from? Oh, we don't know. But up to 6% of some of these samples, amounting to about 4 tons of previously molten iron microspheres, are in all this dust. They're studied by the R.J. Lee Group, who does independent studies because they're an environmental consulting engineer. They say they're formed during the event, not before, by the iron workers putting the building together, welders, not afterward by those iron workers cutting the building apart, but during the event. Well, where did they come from? We could do an experiment. Experiment is the arbiter of competing hypotheses. Let's do one. Let's light some thermite and see what happens. Looks like thousands of sparks, but we look closer and we see that they are molten iron microspheres, which fall into the pan and cool. Well, this isn't how. Why are they spherical? Well, that's just what aerosolized liquids like iron, molten iron under pressure, or raindrops do. They form themselves by surface tension into spheres. Well, there's other kinds of spheres in the dust. The U.S. Geological Survey identifies melted molybdenum. Now, do you know the melting point of molybdenum, Sam?
I don't even know what molybdenum is.
I didn't either. 4,700 degrees to melt this stuff.
Whoa.
4,753 degrees. Extremely high melting, documented by the USGS, completely ignored by NIST. This is key. Not only that, but lead was evaporated. Tell me the temperature for evaporating lead. Okay, I'll give it to you. It's 3,200 degrees. That's like twice what office fires or jet fuel can even burn, or 3 times. The presence of lead oxide on the surface of the mineral wool insulation indicates the existence of extremely high temperatures during the collapse, which caused metallic lead to volatilize, oxidize, and finally condense on the surface of this mineral wool insulation.
Wow.
So they're documenting 6 ways from Sunday temperatures that cannot possibly be accounted for in the official narrative, nor can the toasting of the tops of these cars. But liquid falling molten metal could and does. In fact, the people running from these clouds said it got real hot when the dust clouds hit us. Felt like it's going to light up almost. A wave, a hot, solid black wave of heat threw me down the block. When I was running, some hot stuff went down my back. I had well, I guess first and second degree burns on my back. And then we were engulfed in the smoke. The smoke was hot, and that scared me.
Oh.
I remember making it to the tunnel. It was this incredible amount of wind, debris, heat, huge heat, blast of hot wind gusting, and smoke and dust of all kinds and debris hit me. And finally, this super hot wind blew, and it just got dark as night, and you could not breathe. And so, man, they were freaked out. So all of that could only be evidence of ignited thermite, i.e. molten iron, the byproduct of an ignited thermite. Well, would there be any evidence of unignited thermite in the World Trade Center dust? Interestingly, yes, a team of 8 international scientists led by Niels Harrit in Copenhagen identified 7 independently collected samples and tested them. They found in all of them these curious red-gray chips, red on one side, gray on the other. They go, wow, this looks like paint. But unlike paint, it's attracted by a magnet. So it has a higher iron content than primer paint. So they get real curious, and they do X-ray energy dispersive spectroscopy on the red layer, and they find it has what? Aluminum and iron. Aluminum powder and iron oxide, which is essentially rust. And they go, wow, what are the ingredients of thermite doing in all of these paint chips from the World Trade Center dust? They get real curious, right? They zoom in 50,000 times with an electron microscope, and they find nano-sized particles of iron oxide powder in these crystals that are rhomboidal shaped, and these aluminum flat platelets. And they go, whoa, this is very interesting. This looks highly engineered. It's set in a bed of oxygen, silica, carbon. That's organic material. Organic material is added to high energy explosives to expand rapidly and knock things over. That's how explosives work. Whereas incendiaries work by means of extreme heat, 4,000 degrees or so. So this is very interesting. What is this stuff? They do some research. They find it's called super thermite, developed before 2001 by Lawrence Livermore Lab. They're explosive composites based on thermite reactions.
Whoa.
You see, when you get these particles like at the nano scale, 1,000 times smaller than the diameter of a human hair, the surface volume increases exponentially. So you can get an immediate chemical reaction. And you've engineered an incendiary to become more explosive.
Okay, let me ask you something real quick, and this is going to sound very dumb, but what are you saying they did? Are you saying they put this thermite in the explosive, so when it exploded, it made it even hotter? Is that what we're saying right now, or is the thermite the explosive, or like what? How do you think they packed this all together?
Yeah, that's a pretty important question, and there's nothing dumb about it. In fact, that is what they asked themselves, these scientists. So they put these chips, what they thought were paint chips, but obviously aren't. They put them in a heater, a differential scanning calorimeter, to see what would happen. Because Lawrence Livermore Lab documented publicly in a peer-reviewed paper that when they put their chips in a heater, they ignite. And what happens when they ignite? They ignite at about 850 degrees, proving that it's an active thermitic material, an exothermic reaction. Well, that's exactly what all 4 of these samples did. They ignited. And what do you think they produced when they ignited?
Whoa.
Molten iron microspheres with the exact same chemical signature as the molten iron microspheres found and documented in all the World Trade Center dust by the USGS and R.J. Lee. So we know exactly where all those billions, 4 tons or so, of molten iron microspheres came from. They came from these red-gray chips. As if we didn't know, they're found attached to partially ignited red-gray chips, as you see here and here. So this is a set of experimental, repeatable scientific data that is obviously not made in a cave in Afghanistan, this stuff. It this could be put together and used in a court of law to find out what really happened to the World Trade Center. Because this 24-page peer-reviewed paper in the Bentham Open Chemical Physics Journal documents that this red layer is active, unreacted thermitic material incorporating nanotechnology. It's highly energetic pyrotechnic and or explosive material. So it's in all the World Trade Center dust samples by extrapolation, about 4 tons, again, of unreacted red-gray chips. Well, wow, this is pretty darn interesting. That means it was used to bring down the towers. How? I think we should find out. And we're going to get there.
So crazy, right?
Because it's a fluid, right? It's dual layered. So it was applied as a fluid.
Like a paint. Like a paint? Is that what we're saying? Like the wow,
that's crazy.
Dude.
And there are fireproofing upgrades that we're going to talk about if we have time. I need about another 20 minutes to get there because we're going to look at the Twin Towers. Also, because the Building 7 has all the key characteristic features and some very uncharacteristic features with the use of thermite, of explosive demolition. Fire doesn't account for any one of these features, let alone all 10 of them. With additional circumstantial evidence, corroborative eyewitness testimony, that becomes proof of controlled demolition. Now, that's a body of proof that's convinced more than 3,600 architects and engineers to sign on to the petition demanding a new investigation, many of whom appear in our documentary 9/11 Crime Scene to Courtroom. This is a series of a dozen episodes. We've created 2 already, and everybody can watch these because the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry and Richard Gage 9/11 teamed up to create this presentation series to a grand jury in Washington, D.C. We filmed it all, and now we're producing it, and you can co-produce it with us. It's quite easy. In fact, for $500 support level, we'll list you as an executive producer on the film.
In.
You're
Executive producer Sam Tripoli.
Yes. Well, for $10,000, Sam, we can.
Okay, let's not get crazy here, but yeah, maybe you never know, dude. If it's for the truth,
watch the first 2 episodes. See what you think at 911 C2C Crime Scene 2 Courtroom.org. 911c2c.org. I'll just play the trailer for you. It's just a couple of minutes.
No matter how improbable the conclusion may appear, when you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
We're bringing alive in the film the 60 exhibits of the 9/11 WTC evidence contained in the Lawyers Committee grand jury petition that have already been submitted to the U.S. Attorney in Manhattan to present to a special criminal jury. This historic investigation is ongoing, and there's a role for you in it. Yes, you can help us bring the real perpetrators to justice. Through this film series, we're bringing together 24 experts in their fields.
They ignored any scenario involving incendiaries.
Demolition work, you're going to set charges on each floor.
The building could not have been brought down by office fires.
In other words, all of the interior columns over 8 stories came down, were basically lost at once.
I could make out what looked like from a science fiction movie, molten lava, okay?
And he paused and said, that'll be coming down around 5 o'clock.
We'll be filming these evidence presentations not only for our filings with the grand jury, also as presentations to each of you.
We're inviting you to serve as virtual grand jury during each episode. And we premiered this in September, and we're producing about 1 episode per month, and the next one comes out in a couple of weeks, so we're pretty excited about it. We're more excited about getting into the Twin Towers because if Building 7 was a controlled demolition, it happened on 9/11. It was part of the conspiracy, no matter how you define conspiracy, of the World Trade Center destruction. Speaking of which, just look at the Twin Towers. Upward, outward, arching streamers, a geometry of fireworks, freely flying structural steel sections weighing 4 and 8 tons, laterally ejected at 80 miles an hour, clocked by physicists, landing 600 feet in every direction. This is not a collapse. It's a very different form of destruction than what we saw with Building 7. So I'm excited about getting into it. By the way, why are these steel sections trailing thick white smoke clouds? I thought that steel wasn't flammable in office fire conditions, certainly not by jet fuel. As we talked about, what's going on here? Why are there thick white smoke clouds trailing structural steel sections? Well, look what happens in thermite. It's aluminum oxide ash is what is emitted from these thermite reactions. So let's just look at the series of features associated with the Twin Towers destruction. Beginning with, again, is there a sudden onset? Yeah, the building's standing still, the North Tower, and all of a sudden it's in uniform downward motion. There's no jolt, hesitation when it hits the cold, hard steel below, which we would expect. In fact, it's the same in the South Tower. It's standing at rest, and all of a sudden it's in uniform downward motion, almost free fall, as we'll see. We're told that the upper block...
Unbelievable.
Oh, well, this gets deep. The upper block drives the rest of the building down to the ground and then destroys itself. Not only does this violate Newton's third law of motion.
Look at that, dude. Look what they want you to believe.
It's completely untrue. We'll take a close look at the upper block. But this theory was put forward by Zdeněk Bezant from Northwestern University in Chicago. It took engineers 10 years to decode this completely obfuscated piece of mathematical wizardry. And he submitted it in just 2 days after 9/11 for peer review to the Journal of Engineering Mechanics.
It was that smart that smart people took forever to decide what he was saying?
Yeah, not only that smart, but fast. The rest of us are freaked out, right? When's the next plane coming? Who did this to us? What's happening? The government didn't even have answers by the time this thing was submitted. And yet it remains the key theoretical basis for NIST's column failure theory to this day. And I'll show you that exactly and why it's completely wrong. Not to mention that there's an equal and opposite destructive force when two bodies collide, right? They would destroy each other. Or in this case, say a Mack truck and run into by a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Which one gets destroyed?
Yeah.
Does it matter if we drop the Volkswagen on the Mack truck? No. The upper part, the lightest, weakest part, cannot possibly destroy the cold, hard, heavier, intact steel, which is getting heavier and heavier and heavier as we go down the building. In fact, the columns are getting bigger at half height. They're about 52 inches by 22 inches, and then they start to fill in. They're almost solid steel at the base of the building, and the Volkswagen is going to destroy all of that. Not going to happen. Look at the Volkswagen. Is it destroying that? No. The Volkswagen is destroying itself, and that's exactly what we see. Look, maybe we'll make it easier.
Wow.
Look at the lower red line.
You're totally
This is
right.
This is not a building section driving the rest of the building down. This is the top
It's
building
collapsing
section
on
being-
itself.
Exactly. It's telescoping in on itself. The question is what's destroying it? And we've already seen some of that, and we're going to see a lot more. By the way, if it were driving the rest of the building down, wouldn't we see it? None of the photos, none of the videos show a upper section driving down. It's been destroyed in the first 3 or 4 seconds. After that, we've got something else going on we'll look at. But if it were there, we would see these few remaining core columns that stand and survive that pile driver for 6 seconds until they have an explosion shaking the concrete dust off of them. And then it falls frame by frame down through the concrete powder. So, yeah, this would have been destroyed if there was a huge block. So they don't show us this. NIST doesn't have this picture in any of their stuff. By the way, which one is a volcanic eruption and which one is building number one, the North Tower? It's hard to tell, isn't it?
It is hard to tell.
It's we have outward arching streamers, again, freely flying molten solid objects trailed by thick white smoke clouds and a geometry of fireworks. This is not a collapse whatsoever. It is a building that is obviously blowing up. So let's go back to Zdeněk Bazant for a second. Is it this? That's the model? No, that top part did not even survive. In fact, the building was blowing up and out, as John Cole, civil engineer, shows us, away from the core, leaving some of it intact. This is the model. That is the accurate model, completely ignored by the $20 million NIST report, who produced 10,000 pages because they were tasked by Congress to explain how and why these towers collapsed, all three of them. So
hold on, real quick, Richard. Sorry to cut you off. You're on a nice roll. What that diagram you showed me, for those who are at home, it's a series, it's a drawing, and it's basically starts at stage one, which is pretty much the tower. It's a column, and then there's a space in between. Then there's a second part of the column, or we call it the Volkswagen at the top, and it's supposed to come down. But what is shocking to me is at the end, are you saying that the middle steel beams is in the middle of?
Yeah, those are core columns. They're about 8 of the 47 core columns. And at that height, they're 52 inches by 16 inches. Pretty incredible.
So it's basically 100% exploding out, which means it's leaving the middle intact.
Well, not only that, but how far out did they go? I'm going to show you. But first, I want to show you that they didn't abide by the task that NIST provided to them. They had their own objective. It was hidden on footnote 13 and page 82 of their 10,000 page report. What does it say? The focus of the investigation was on the sequence of events from the instant of aircraft impact to the initiation of collapse. What? It doesn't actually include the structural behavior of the tower after the conditions for collapse initiation were reached. What? You spent all that money, 10,000 pages, and no calculations on the actual collapse? There's just a half a page in these 10,000. What does it say? So the structure below the level of collapse initiation offered minimal resistance. The large building mass far exceeded the capacity of the intact structure below to absorb that. It came down essentially in free fall. The floors below were unable to arrest the moving mass. Wow. This is pure speculation, not one calculation to support it. And we'll look at the calculations that Zdeněk Bazant did in a second. But this is completely avoiding the issue. Structural engineers do this every day for a living, calculate the ability of the strength of the structure below to resist the weight of the structure portion above. It's a pre-collapse report. It should have been titled the final report on the initiation of collapse. But it just completely avoids that. So what could it have been that was destroying these towers? Well, we have witnesses. I mean, 156 of them on record, orally recorded. Within a month after 9/11, the first responders, and talking about explosions. Graham McQueen read every one of the 500 witnesses altogether, 12,000 pages of testimony to find these particular ones. And this is just a few of them. I'm going to read you. We felt the ground shake. You could see the tower sway, and then it just came down. Again and again, you're going to hear this order of events. They see something, they hear something, they say something in regards to explosions. And before the tower even comes down, all of a sudden the ground just started shaking. It felt like a train running under my feet. The next thing we know, we look up and the tower is collapsing. shook my bones. Shortly before the first tower came down, I remember feeling the ground shaking, heard a terrible noise, and then debris just started flying everywhere. I saw flash, 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 the lower level of the building. You know, like when they demolish a building, with each popping sound, initially an orange, and then a red flash came out of the building. And then it would just go all the way around it on both sides. Saw a number of brief light sources being emitted from inside the building between floors 10 and 15. Now, that's way low in the building. He saw about 6 of these brief flashes accompanied by a crackling sound before the tower collapsed. I saw low-level flashes. I saw flash, 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 and then it looked like the building came down.
Wow.
An explosion appeared at the very top. Simultaneously, from all 4 sides, material shot out horizontally, and then there seemed to be a momentary delay before you could see the beginning of the collapse. How specific do these guys need to be? There was an explosion in the South Tower, one floor under another. When it hit about the 5th floor, I figured it was a bomb because it looked like a synchronized, deliberate kind of thing. Seemed like on television when they blow up these buildings, seemed like it was going all the way around like a belt, all these explosions. The building was blowing out on all 4 sides. You actually heard the pops. You know, you heard the pops of the building. I thought the terrorists planted explosives somewhere in the building. That's how loud it was. A crackling explosive. Another loud boom at the upper floor.
Look at
And then a
that.
series, yeah, it's pretty clear. And then a series of smaller explosions, which appeared to go completely around the building at the upper floors. Another loud earth-shattering blast with a large fireball that blew out more debris. The lower level of the building, you know, like when they demolish a building, that's what I thought I saw. You see any flashes? I said, yes. I thought it was just me. He said, no, I saw them too.
Wow.
Everybody, I think, at this point still thought these things were blown up, so I was fully expecting anything else to blow up. You were there when the planes hit? No, I was there when the building exploded. You mean when it fell down? No, when it exploded. These guys are pretty darn clear what they saw, right? He's not going to be led by the nose here. So feature number 3, do we have a straight down symmetrical progression? Well, it starts out tipping over the South Tower, right? It tips over at about 22 degrees. And like it's falling off the building. So there's asymmetrical loading from that. There's asymmetrical damage from the planes. There's asymmetrical damage from the fires. How in the hell do we get complete symmetrical damage all the way around then on each face of the building? This? Can you? Yeah, really? Did you see this on CNN? No, just like this is completely corroborating the firefighters like a belt all the way around the building. Again, and both buildings, by the way. Let's zoom in on the leading corner. We have here in this looped video a series of a dozen independent explosions going off floor by floor. It is very clear in what we're seeing here, in addition to this isolated explosive going off 10 floors below or so. So this is not a nuclear weapon going off. These have to be pre-placed, relatively small, precisely timed explosions. Shaped cutter charges would cut the columns and there are devices that have been invented and patented prior to 9/11 that use thermite as the source of the shaped cutter charge. So this is not directed energy weapons going off either. These are independent explosions. The directed energy weapons are credited with doing all kinds of things that they can't do. There's certainly things that they can do. This is not one of them. We can talk more about that in a moment, but look at feature number 4, the isolated explosive ejections called squibs in the controlled demolition industry. Sorry. They're occurring 20 stories down below, 40 stories down below the zone of destruction.
Yeah.
These isolated ejections, commonly called squibs, 60 stories down.
Yeah, look at that.
There's no accounting for these in the official narrative whatsoever either. I mean, this is very clear evidence. So they just don't show this stuff. There's solids that are ejected out of the building at 160 miles an hour. These are explosive speeds, not air pressure. And on the left side of the South Tower, as it's beginning to tip to the right, we see a dozen isolated explosive ejections. They're not that isolated, but they're obviously explosive ejections, which is essentially liquefying the rigid structure so that it can't act as a rigid body and fall over to the right. It actually ends up settling back down and falling as pieces inside the building. So then we got to say, well, how fast is this building going down? Well, David Chandler, physics teacher, clocks it at 64% of acceleration free fall. Wait, what is that? Free fall is a bowling ball, again, falling out of the sky. No resistance. This building had 10% left over resistance. So it didn't fall quite at free fall, but it's getting faster and faster and faster, straight down through the path of what was the greatest resistance. The thousands of tons of structural steel, about 80,000 tons.
People have no clue how much metal and steel was the skeleton of this building. Like when you look at old pictures of it being built, it's a fortress, dude. There's so much metal and steel involved. It's mind-blowing.
There's more steel on the facade of this building than glass. It was an exoskeleton. They were quite nervous about designing the tallest buildings in the world here, right? So they developed Verandil trusses with 3 vertical columns welded together by 3 horizontal spandrel panels, and those were in turn bolted one to another and erected into place and bolted. And that it came down like it wasn't even there. Straight down through this. And what happened to those exterior structural steel sections? Let's look, because this is one of the features of an unusual controlled demolition. They're impaled on skyscrapers all around them. They're hurled 600 feet away, destroying the winter gardens between the 2 World Financial Center buildings. They've destroyed the Deutsche Bank building. And some of them landed on Building 7, more than a football field away.
Look at that.
So we have an incredible problem here. It is not explainable, and that's why they make it go away.
Look at
completely.
that. Did you see that last picture? Just cut.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we got to look and see what's actually happening. We have, for instance, these 4-ton, 8-ton structural steel sections ejected at 80 miles an hour laterally. Watch, trailing thick white smoke clouds. There we are. And they're individual. This is not like a banana peeling off the building. These are freely flying. For instance, look at this one. Going to hit Building 7 right there. Back to forward 2, back.
And what do you think that is? What is flying right there?
Well, that is one of the structural steel sections that we just looked at, weighing 4 tons. Now here it's lateral. How does gravity work? Down. What's going on here? It is shot out with incredible force, and then it gets taken over by gravity, and it gets to be about 45 degrees before it hits Building 7. There's enough energy here to hurl a 200-pound cannonball 3 miles. There's an incredible amount of energy that's not available in a gravitational collapse. Let's look at the debris pile. We have 1,200-foot diameter debris, up to 1,400 foot, actually, well beyond the perimeter of the World Trade Center. Destroying here is where the Winter Gardens are on the left, and the World Financial Center 600 feet away.
Wow.
But now that's not all, though. Here's the problem. If 100,000 tons of steel framing is distributed well outside the footprint, we got to ask ourselves, what's crushing the building? Because that's a third of the weight of each of these buildings.
So there should be a big pile, right, of metal on
there
top
should
of
be
that,
a huge
like a huge pile
of steel.
That's
right.
what I've been saying forever. Where is it?
We're going to look for it. In fact, you can see it right here in the middle. It is distributed in a 1,400-foot diameter about each of these towers. How can it crush the building if it's 600 feet away? We saw before that all those sections were distributed laterally across the entire perimeter. Well, maybe it was the concrete that crushed the building. Let's look for it, because we had 110 concrete floors, each of them an acre in size. So we're talking about 4-inch thick and 8-inch thick concrete poured on metal pans supported by lightweight steel trusses. We should see about 110 of these assemblies stacked up on the bottom with steel between them, about 20 or 30 stories tall.
This is what I've been saying forever.
Yeah, well, look at it. It's only like 4, maybe 6 stories at the tallest. This pile with miscellaneous metal, some of the steel is there, but 95% of it or so is gone. Well, what about the concrete? We're looking for pancakes. This is a real pancaking collapse in Mexico, right? An earthquake. So where's the concrete? I mean, we don't see it. Oh, there it is. It's pulverized in midair.
That's crazy.
My God,
To
it vaporizes.
No, but his ID didn't get properly. Not the ID though.
But the ID.
Not the ID
the
though.
passport survived. We should make buildings out of passports.
Well, the ID, the passport, yeah. It's in there somewhere, right? And probably pulverized just like the plain pieces, just like the concrete. But what could pulverize concrete? Well, we know from ASTM test C856 that above 1,500 degree temperatures, concrete can be powderized, turned to a white powder. Well, that's very interesting. We had temperatures documented already of 3,000 or 4,000 degrees. What does concrete do under those temperatures? Well, apparently it pulverizes into white powder, because that's exactly what we've got. 90,000 tons of concrete in each building. Pulverized to 100 micron particles. But what happens to it then? Does it crush the building? No. It's distributed in a 3-inch thick blanket from river to river across lower Manhattan in a 3 square mile area.
Wow.
That's where the concrete is.
That's all the concrete.
If that's true, 30% of this powder is concrete, and there's more of it is not more, but additional amounts is gypsum board powder. But what's crushing the building if the concrete is spread out from river to river? Certainly not the concrete. That's another third of the weight of this building. Collectively, that's 2/3 of the weight of the building that's not even available to crush it down. Wait a minute. That's what their whole theory relies on. The crush down theory is all of that weight. We saw that was already destroyed, but now we know that the concrete and steel has been distributed laterally. But Zdeněk Bezant used all of that weight. Not only did he use all of that weight, he fraudulently doubled the mass up above, and he decreased the capability of the columns below to resist that weight.
Oh, I got it wrong. I thought this guy. So you're saying he put this out so quickly, and it was just like kind of what you said earlier, to control the narrative.
Yep, exactly. They get it out early and control the narrative, and he's dead wrong. And this has been proven by scientists who have produced their own calculations disproving it. In fact, Tony Zambodi, Richard Johns, Gregory Zudolinski submitted papers to the Journal of Engineering and Mechanics saying, hey, he got it wrong. Let's look at this. A very scientific paper. But they won't publish it. The American Society of Civil Engineers. Why? They said it's out of scope. What? How is it out of scope to challenge a previously published paper in that same journal? It's not out of scope. This is what we do in science, peer-reviewed science. It's the whole point. So, man, they've got real problems. There's a lawsuit against the American Society of Civil Engineers because of this. Then you have to ask, okay, you got me. How do they get into the building? Well, let's look at some possibilities.
Here we go.
And then maybe we can, if we have time, we can talk about who are they anyway, who did this to us. But starting here, we have fireproofing upgrades going on in the months and years before 9/11, coincidentally at the same point of the building that the planes hit. Now, how coincidental can that get? It's pretty clear. In fact, you could take liquid applied nanothermite and apply it without even like people knowing, like Mexican laborers or whatever.
Xavier Guerrero.
Yeah. If you're working under the table, you don't talk.
Your joke is, right? You always talk about Mexicans' inside job. There we go.
Well, all right. Maybe they're women. Even worse. So there are no women here. So we've got the underside of these concrete floor slabs, which turned to white powder, applied with something. Was it fireproofing or was it liquid applied nanothermite?
Whoa,
that's
bro.
Getting to an answer to your earlier question, I hope.
Yes.
Now, we don't know that, but we certainly want an investigation. Kevin Ryan researched this at digwithin.net, his blog, where you can look at demolition access to the towers. There's a whole lot more. It's a series of 4 very incredible essays. In fact, he wrote a book getting at who did it, Another 19 Suspects. An additional 19 suspects who may have really been responsible for this.
I'm in, dude.
Oh, wait up. So you said that those spots right there were painted with or applied with nanothermite, right?
I didn't say that. I said it's a possibility.
It's a possibility. Okay, it's a possibility. The reason I ask is if it was painted on those levels, you can't expect the terrorists to miss those levels of those floors. You know what I'm trying to say? Where Sam comes in, where these were drones. Because you can't rely.
Well, you're jumping it. Let him.
Okay,
let
I didn't
him
know.
Explain.
I didn't know that's where we're going.
I actually don't have that because we're already over time. But let's just look at it. Most people in the 9/11 Truth Movement do not. They do agree with you that if you're going to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars and risking, being thrown in jail for treason, all of them, you're not going to wait for hijackers who failed Cessna flying school to get these airliners into their precise targets. It's hard enough to hit a 200-foot wide target at 500 miles an hour.
I like where this is going. I love where this
Most people don't. You're different.
I'm all about this, dude. Okay. Go where you want to go, and first, whatever you need to do.
So how could they have gotten into the building? Well, if they could get into the elevator shafts, they would find themselves in immediate proximity to the core columns and beams in the building because they're right there behind 2 inches of gypsum board. Remember, gypsum board is used to protect steel. That doesn't turn around and attack the steel like NIST says, but you'd have to cut through it. And that's really interesting because this particular database administrator from Fiduciary Trust, who was one of the tenants, I think the North Tower, I can't quite recall, Scott Forbes, he gives us a clue what might have happened here.
It was probably the week leading up to 9/11. Every morning I'd come in around 7 a.m. and the dust was incredible. It was filthy. It was like the cleaners weren't cleaning. Right where the windows were, there was a sill which enclosed radiators. I was sick to death of the dust which was appearing on the windowsills. It was dirty grey and very, very noticeable in that week leading up to 9/11.
Wow. So cutting through that gypsum board to get to those beams would have created all this dust, which went everywhere, apparently. So that's interesting. Well, did they have access to the shafts? Well, it turns out that the largest elevator modernization in history was going on the 9 months prior to 9/11. Ace Elevator got this contract. Why would the Port Authority have given one of the largest, most sophisticated elevator modernization programs in the industry's history to a small maintenance company, Ace Elevator, with basically one customer? Otis Elevator had installed these elevators and had been maintaining them successfully up to this time, but they were apparently outbid by this company who came out of nowhere.
It even sounds like one of the fake companies that they, the CIA makes up.
Yeah, Acme.
Elevator.
Why didn't they just use the word?
What is Wild E. Coyote?
Yeah,
totally.
Acme. Incredible. But now they were working on this up to the time of 9/11. But people said, well, where did they go? What happened to them? Well, Dan Boyle says there was a labor dispute that day. And the members of that company, about 50 of them, were pulled out to a union meeting to discuss some business.
Oh,
coincidentally.
my God.
Isn't that incredible? When does this stop being coincidence? That's the question you have to ask. And when does it start being conspiracy? Well, what happened to the steel? We have easily the largest and most perplexing structural failures in history. But starting just 2 weeks after 9/11, we have 400 truckloads a day lined up to pack this material up and take it to China for recycling before investigators could get their hands on it and do a proper forensic investigation. All the steel, 98% of it or 95% of it, I think it's 99% of it, went to China. This is the illegal destruction of evidence in a crime scene. You stack all these things up together and you get a problem that the Fire Engineering Magazine editor-in-chief, Bill Manning, dealt with. He says, crucial evidence that could answer many questions is on the slow boat to China, showing an astounding ignorance of government officials to the value of a thorough scientific investigation. The destruction and removal of evidence must stop immediately. But it didn't. And that is one of the many factors providing evidence that the 10 key characteristic features here of controlled demolition, many of them very uncharacteristic, right, with outward ejections of all this steel. It's direct evidence of destruction with incendiaries and explosives. Fire doesn't create any one of these features, let alone all 10 of them. With additional circumstantial evidence and corroborative testimony, that's why we have according to 3,600 architects and engineers who are on record publicly staking their reputations, demanding a new investigation. And again, they appear, not all of them, some of them, in our documentary series. Again, Sam, executive producer, $500. That will help us get the post-production
help
done.
You get it going. So that's 911C2, the number 2, C.org. That will be... You can find that link in the description below.
Absolutely. And if you lose it, you can find the link on my website, richardgage911.org also. So we've got documentaries that we've made that have been seen by millions of people. 9/11 explosive evidence, experts speak out. The evidence hasn't changed in 10 years. And this was one of our hot documentaries with 40 high-rise architects, structural engineers, metallurgists, chemists, physicists, controlled demolition experts, all laying out this evidence. A 15-minute documentary just on Building 7, narrated by actor Ed Asner. And the movie that Dylan Avery made, maker of Loose Change, 9/11. He made this film about Professor Halsey and the team of engineers that did that analysis that we showed you earlier on Building 7. The entire outline of this evidence we've been talking about today, you can download and print it. It's in a brochure, and you can hand it to people. You can buy a stack of them in our store at Richard Gage 911.
This is my Christmas card.
There you go. Everybody's got to see this. This is like a 2x4 that hits us over the head, and we need it. Because we've lost 800,000 lives. We've lost $6.4 trillion in the global
let's not forget the 4 million Iraqis that died because they were blamed for something that they had nothing to do with.
How about that? They're called patsies, the alleged hijackers who weren't even Iraqis or Afghanis, right? They were Saudis mostly. And yet the Muslim terrorism was blamed here. They couldn't possibly have done it.
Yes.
So they're
I'm with you,
vindicated
ma'am.
by this evidence. And yet they're more silent than Americans on this subject. I don't understand why. I've given presentations to Muslim societies, and they are very shy. I mean, understandably, you stick your head up, it gets shot down by the official narrative and everybody around you. And then they get called, fundamentalist. So nobody wants these labels. If we really start to look at where this goes, they start calling you anti-Semitic. So that's another topic.
Go. Well, doors open whenever you want to come by and talk.
Well, let's go here first. We have a $6.5 trillion global war on terror. We've lost our civil liberties through emergency declaration, right? Through Patriot Act, the Military Commissions Act, the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012. Any of us can be arrested, especially you, Sam, without a right to a lawyer, a trial, a juror,
dangerous
a
man.
Jury. We could be tortured and even assassinated. Just for supporting terrorism. And this presentation could be conceived of as that, because it's not even defined. We've also have an incredible array of problems associated with the consequences of 9/11, including the creation of a surveillance state through the Department of Homeland Security, again, through the emergency. All of our phone calls, our texts, our emails are systematically swept up, stored in the largest building in Utah for use against us. Completely unconstitutional. And yet, that's what 9/11 gave us. If you want to get your republic back, you need to start talking about 9/11, because the truth is very, very dark. We have to wake up and realize what's happened to us while we were sleeping. In fact, where do we draw our line in the sand? Do we wait for the next 9/11? No. I'll tell you what, it's happened not once, but twice since then. COVID and the false disease engineered for use against us, along with the false solution to that problem that's far worse than the original problem, which is usually the case with problem, reaction, solution that they engineer.
I respect what you're saying.
Yeah, this is the Hegelian dialectic that is used by the deep state and those who are really good at this. And the big pharma, who owns big pharma? We can talk about that. What about Gaza? What happened with the invasion by Hamas into Israel? What really happened there? The parallels between 9/11 and Gaza are absolutely
100%.
Have you been there? Well, we've got a whole 2-hour topic on the parallels between 9/11 and Gaza.
Oh, really?
We have foreknowledge. It's incredible what we have found. We have the creation of a surveillance state in Israel. They can be put away for 5 years and $5,000 just for not supporting their troops, right? Asking questions about what happened. It turns out there's only a couple of dozen actual Hamas people. It created and inflated. And most of the deaths that were attributed to Hamas were actually made by Apache helicopter pilots.
Hannibal Directive.
The Hannibal Directive, and to empty their bellies and come back for more. They needed a horrible situation that they engineered, but they had foreknowledge well in advance. Many different kinds. They abandoned their base on the Gazan border so that when the few Hamas people did arrive there was nobody there to even greet or repel them, and no reaction for 7 hours, even though there was incursion across 15 points of the border that the Apache helicopters were 5 minutes away from. Anyway, I'm getting distracted.
No, you're not. You're right on it, brother. I agree with everything you've said.
Oh, I'm glad you looked at it. When we can come back and talk in detail about those two things, COVID and Gaza.
Anytime.
When
Doors
you're ready.
open.
We'll do it then. Because we might feel like, we're small. What can I do? I'm not Richard Gage. I'm not 3,000 architects. No, You may feel like you're one domino, but look what happens when we can work together.
Boom. That was 13 dominoes. If I had 29 dominoes, the last domino would be as tall as the Empire State Building.
And we can take it down, because that's the deep state, right? The deep state is so entrenched in our government, our media, our military, everywhere. I mean, we've got somebody in the presidency now who's talking about taking it down and doing some things, actually. And we're hopeful, but we got to hold his feet to the fire.
100%.
Just like the rest of his base is, huh?
Yeah, I agree with that. And, there's a lot of people that might be losing hope. And, again, I don't think I say this all the time. The deep state isn't bigger than God. The deep state isn't bigger than the universe. There's rules to the universe, and the universe is love. And if you're either in high vibration or low vibration, and if you're not helping others, the universe makes you pay for it. I really do believe it. Maybe it's not instantaneous, but it does come. And
where does go ahead?
And I just want to say that, I really do believe that they have painted themselves into a corner. I think if something big like this happened, and now you're 100% correct, October 7th, COVID, right along the lines of 9/11, but I really do believe that these three series of events have created a very skeptical population. And I think it's going to be very hard for that. And I could be wrong. I've never been surprised by how let down I am by people. But that if something along the lines of this does happen, I think people instantly go, it's the government, it's the intelligence agencies, it's Israel, it's Mossad. I really do believe that. And so I do have hope. I think people are becoming more and more skeptic by the day. I believe personally, and I've been called, I've been told by people, are you on drugs or whatever? But I really do believe that the right will eventually get rid of Zionism. They will excommunicate it, just like we as a whole country had kind of said no to Marxism, voted that stuff out, and I don't think you can vote your way out, but we've collectively said no. We don't like this. We don't like cultural Marxism. We don't like you pushing Satanism on us. Let children be children. Let people live their life. Let the relationship between men and women be what it's always been for thousands of years. We've rejected the dogma that says the opposite of that. And I believe you're going to see that happen from the right. I have way more faith in the right rejecting Zionism and Israel first. That's my honest belief.
Well, the truth has to come out, and once the truth is coming out, you're speaking it on your show with your previous podcasts. You're helping people to understand who they really are. You mentioned, where does God live? Well, He lives in us. If that's true, then we're not trapped in here in the matrix with agents, demons, and vampire energies. Hell, they're trapped in here with us.
Yeah,
right.
You always
we
love
got
that
the
scene,
armor
right?
of God. On.
Yeah, you love that. Can I ask you a really quick question? Now, have you had the opportunity to even in an impromptu fashion confront some of the architects who are still espousing the the kind of towing the line for the government narrative, and how do they respond to that?
It's the median between complete denial, such that I'm not even going to look at what you're saying because it can't possibly be true. Mm-hmm. Even if it were true, I wouldn't believe it. You get that, and then so they don't look at it. But if we can get in front of them and show them Building 7 coming down, then they all of a sudden their mind begins to open. And if we can get them for an hour or an hour and a half, like we just did, and show them this, none of them will disagree with us unless they're paid. And we have, I've done over 1,000 presentations, 24 countries and 100 American cities. And we almost always get 100%. Yeah, we need a real investigation. But we fairly often, we get one or two people that just won't go there after they've seen the presentation. But of all the new people, they're almost all convinced. And this is true in the architecture conferences where we show them Twin Towers coming down also, and you say, yeah, did you ever notice? No, I never quite looked at it that way. I hadn't seen this particular video. All they did is they've heard over and over again, Muslim hijackers, planes, jet fuel, explosions. Well, even this tells us that 90% of the jet fuel exploded outside the building. We saw it.
So
the rest of it was
crazy.
gone in 10 minutes. So it's not the jet fuel.
Wow.
It's not the few broken columns from the plane. And it's not even the fire that was started by the jet fuel. All that's the official story. It's the explosions that nobody gets a chance to see until we present it to them.
Well, I think what you're doing is amazing. I know that maybe people you used to work with weren't happy with some of the stuff you were saying during COVID, and history will show you were right and you're on the right side of it. And it's like funny because a good friend of mine, Josh Denny, we were talking, and he's like, we were right about everything. When are they going to say we're right? They're like, they'll never do it. It's an ego thing. And it's also all of them admitting they were all wrong. They'll never do it. And they're just going to move on. And then they're going to act like they were down with it and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, the real ones know who were right. And, and it's this thing I've been talking about that, like the real punk rock now in life is common sense. Like common sense above ideology, common sense above even to the point sometimes like organized religion in some weird kind of ways, and you were on the right side of it. And, I'm sure there was a weird bumpy time where, people around you weren't happy with what you were saying, and you stuck to your truth. And that's what makes you amazing. And this was one of the best episodes we've ever had. And we really do appreciate you coming on, Richard. One more time, can you tell them where they can find you?
Yeah, let's just go to richardgage911.org. You'll find all our stuff there. There's our bumper for our podcast. Gail and I have given 85 podcasts interviewing people in and around the 9/11 truth movement. You'll find the new white paper that Kurt Weldon is hand delivering to the Trump team via Susie Wiles. And he has been in discussion with Hegseth and Gabbard and Vance about a new 9/11 investigation. He's on fire. So we're all supporting him. He brought the 9/11 truth movement together, which is kind of fractious. If you get to know us, we don't all agree on the same things or get along. But he got us to agree and get along on this 9-page paper outlining all the evidence that we've talked about and a lot more, and from firefighters as well. And it's powerful. It's right there. It's called the white paper. It's on that's 120 pages long altogether.
That's
but
a lot
the
of paper.
Executive summary is a shortened version.
Well, you did great work. I'm so thankful. And hopefully people will wake up. They're dragging their feet on the JFK, files, because supposedly there's one person left from there that's still alive. But it's like this thing with the Epstein file. If someone put out the funniest meme, it was a duck.
Wait, is that the line now? The JFK, like that's the latest line?
No, but that's why everyone's saying that this one woman who was involved is still alive. That's why they don't want to release it.
It's a female.
Yeah, a woman. She was supposedly.
If you're involved, though, I don't care.
You and I don't.
No, I know.
I don't care.
I know, but I'm
just
saying.
But the powers that be. I think because they don't. I don't want to keep Richard.
Yeah, of course,
but it's like the thing with the Epstein files. There's this funny meme that put out with a skeptical duck yelling at a guy, going, "Why is there national security stuff in the Epstein files, Pam? Why is there national? What is national security about Epstein?" And that's where we're at.
Yeah, we've had not only Trump call for a new 9/11 investigation, and now from Congress, Representative Anna Paulina Luna has been named as the task chair by James Comer, the House Oversight Committee chairman, to lead an investigation not only into JFK, RFK, and MLK, but Epstein and 9/11 as well, and COVID origins. So this is the first time we've ever had a congressional representative stand up, give a formal press conference, and call for a 9/11 investigation. So we are moving forward.
Well, I appreciate that. We're very happy. And let's do a breakdown of this episode. Powerful. What do you guys think?
Oh, you got to watch this one. There's some podcasts where you can just hear and you don't know. This is like sit down, go to samtripley.com and watch this.
If you are listening, though, continue to listen. Don't stop.
No, always listen. Never stop listening. But, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. Twitter's been belly good to me. It's been like, I'm getting like big numbers on there. Sorry, Johnny. Johnny, just take the broken sim over.
No, I don't.
I just want to say something about Richard. That was an incredible presentation.
Amazing.
One of the best episodes we've ever done. And we say that all the time here. That's the show is fired. Johnny was so excited. He drooled all over himself, poured this drink all over himself.
We say that a lot, but we mean it.
Yeah,
so we're actually telling you the
serious.
truth this time.
I mean, this is like I'm going to call it 9/11 case closed.
Yeah.
Because that's a case closed. It's done. I love Richard. I didn't want to say anything to him, but I have zero faith in that Luna chick on doing anything. But he's totally right, and it's progress. What she's going to do is completely shit the bed on it, and it will Streisand affect it, and people will just be pushing more and more. We are the powerful. Yeah. There's very few of them.
It also normalizes the conversation.
Yes.
That it brings
when they mess it up, it's almost like when you talk about October 7th, that kind of opened the door to have a discussion about things we were never allowed to discuss.
Absolutely.
But dude, when he showed that video of that beam flying, you're like,
crazy,
oh my God.
It's ejected out of
Because you never understood it. And it's very interesting because there's even deeper layers to it that maybe someone like Richard might not want to go into because someone could say it's crazy, and that's direct energy weapons and just the dustification of.
I don't think you need it though with the model that he's proposing. You don't need the extraordinary.
But there is
like
some discussion.
Or like the other one, the drone one. Where I jumped the bullet a little bit.
No, it's fine.
But because he said that you're not gonna lie.
Just think about this, because first of all, it's incredible that they just painted on the explosions, the explosives. Like, I've never heard that before. Like, I thought that the explosion turned to red paint. That some like the explosion turned
reaction.
red. But in reality, that was the explosive. The red paint they found.
Which
and
is
they
so
painted it everywhere. They told everybody it was fire retardant. When really it was the thing that blew everything up. Unbelievable.
And like I never thought paint could do that. I thought it was actual like TNT. Like they went in there and they placed some TNT throughout the building. But no, they just painted it, make it seem real casual, throw some Mexicans in there, just paint it up.
There was no Mexicans in there. Where no. I mean,
painting it? Who do you think painted the fucking the nanothermite or whatever that paint was?
Dude. Maybe.
It was a CIA.
What if some of your friends just grabbed the paint bin? Hey man, I got paint in my house, dog. Can I get a little bit of this section? Oh yeah, here you go.
You know,
and then they paint their house and someone lights a cigarette. Boom.
You know what's crazy though? Going back to paint, what about blue paint?
Yeah, I mean it's super interesting.
Paint,
Red paint is explosive. Blue paint is it's crazy to me, dude.
Massive unexplained explosion in Chino. Nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody knows why. Orale. But absolutely amazing. And again,
yes,
the more and more I get into it, there is a small predator class, and they never get held accountable because they control both the crime and the
investigation.
And the investigation.
Yeah, totally.
It's crazy to me, and I'm just waiting for people to wake up. And like the fact that he got into Gaza is just like, you get it, dude.
Yeah.
You get it, dude. You get it. I mean, you know who he needs to hook up with? Ben Swan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And then I need them both to spit roast Dylan on my other show.
Is he resisting even the 9/11?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
really? Okay.
if you have any Jewish blood in you, any talk that Israel was behind October 7th. We're not even going to get into 9/11 into October 7th. Every molecule in your body rejects that.
But I mean, Netanyahu is on the record talking about how they funded Hamas. So it
doesn't matter.
Even
it doesn't
at
matter.
the most removed, he still. I mean, it's on. We've heard him say it.
Yeah, but
I don't understand.
But dude, Israel's calling out Netanyahu, and again, it gets into this predator class. And, you know, obviously we've had Abby Martin talk about how
God bless her.
97% of the population is totally for the eradication of Palestinians.
God bless Abby
Which is like, listen, here's the truth, man. And this is why I've been telling, like, we're entering the greatest time ever in terms of social cohesion and culture. Because for the first time ever, everyone can criticize everybody. And it sounds like, oh, there's hate everywhere. It's not hate. It's criticism. Okay?
That tells you, though, how effective the propaganda is in Israel. The domestic propaganda is just, I mean, they're brainwashed. That whole
But
country's
listen to him.
brainwashed.
If you question October 7th, you go to jail. Think about that.
That's crazy.
I mean, you see it in Germany, too. With
I
the
mean, yeah.
swastika and all the...
Germany. Oh, dude. They're anti-swastika unless it's against somebody they don't like. You see that?
Yeah, well, I
They
saw
had
the Elon in the parade, you know? Where they had the,
and then they had the guy who's in charge of the ADF.
Yeah.
They had him with a swastika too, and I was like, I'm sorry, dude. Ridiculous. It just the call came from within the house.
Yeah.
The caller's in the house.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, dude. And people are gonna get really weird with me. I don't give a shit, dude. I'm out here just trying to spit that truth, dog. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to spit that truth. Bang that out.
Isn't it so nice, too, to have an episode where we could have gone on for another... You know, I mean, there's-
I
that
could have
guy-
kept going.
That guy has so much information.
And,
you know?
dude, the show after this is going to be fire too.
Right.
Double bang. We've been on a nice run. Just when you thought, oh, we've talked about it all, here we go. Bangers, dude. And as much as everyone else can talk about things we're talking about, and the big shows are all my friends, and I love that they're talking because they're reaching an even wider audience. We're even deeper.
Yeah, we get dirty.
We're into things that people get nervous to talk about. Okay,
You get nervous. You got a little nervous on this one. You're like, hey,
No, I
not
didn't.
nervous, but you're like,
no, dude, I got excited. Dude, you get a guy that smart talking about things that we all know.
I saw the table lift up a little bit.
Yeah, I got full wood. If we had Richard Gage going off on like the dancing Israeli, full wood, dog. Guys, if you want to see me live, go to samtripoli.com. I'm going to be in Louisville, Kentucky if this comes out by tomorrow, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Detroit, Michigan, Tacoma, Washington, and Tacoma. It's a long story, but will you ever come on the road with us? Are you afraid?
yes, I'm working on it.
Okay. New episodes are out. Go down, dude. Go to T-shirts. Go to T-shirts real quick. Look what's out. Go down. There it is. It is available. Now, somebody said they tried to go on Etsy and it was gone, but Justin went on Etsy, and there it is. The Fuck Zuck shirt is live. We're live.
Is that other one you mentioned too up yet? The one you told me Broken Sam the other night was the new one.
Which one?
I don't. You told me it was up there. I can't remember.
No. Oh, go up. Let me see if it is up.
No, it's not.
It's not up yet, and that is the punk rock.
Yeah.
That's not up yet. We're
Common
getting
Sense
that done,
is punk rock.
and people are working on the new secret shirt.
Hey, they're on you got them at $14 now.
Whoa! Oh yeah, the old ones you can get them cheap.
Go get them now. Yeah, instead of 20, which is still a deal.
We're
They're
just
$14.
pushing product at this point.
Go get them.
Just trying to push product. Bang, bang, pow.
Wake up, Aaron.
Wake up, Aaron.
I might need to get that one.
Hey, go up. Premium content's fire. Been working with some great people on some premium content. I'm going to do one tonight before I take off to Louisville. I'm going to be breaking down how everyone's having a crazy reaction to my Trump's, we're going to cut out funding and arrest you if you do an illegal protest. I'm like, that's slippery slope, everybody.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But that is the slope. I mean, that is the bottom of the slope.
No,
what he
dude,
just
it's,
described.
people don't understand.
Can I say really quick about Aaron? I've heard a theory going around that Aaron, he got fired from the show. And Aaron's a great. I just talked to him a couple days ago. We love Aaron.
We've never fired anyone from the show ever. Who have we fired from this show? Who?
The girl.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Somebody had to get fired from the show. We decided, is that fire going party? Well, yeah, you're right. We did fire somebody. But anyways, guys, go to Cash Daddy's Patreon. People been making money, dude. Ooh. Do you want to make money?
It's the time right now. Yeah.
Here's what I'm telling you guys. I was having to talk with my good friend Mike Romanelli. The economy is going to become a gig economy, okay? We're going to go back to the 1700s and the 1800s where you didn't have corporations and you just had to be a welder, a blacksmith, a plumber. That's where the gig's going. So you got to have multiple gigs going on. And the best way to do it is to learn how to have your money work for you. And Cash Daddy is all about that, okay? Cash Daddy, he tells you what to buy, when to sell it.
Howie Dewey.
Howie Dewey, idiot savant, heavy on the idiot, but a savant when it comes to investing. And listen, it's investing. You could not win. It happens. But we have how many? Almost 1,200 subscribers. I mean, come on. Again, go back to my main website, and then we got just go down. Chaos Twins, it's coming. They're working on it right now. Go back one more. Please join that. And then all of our affiliates, guys. I'm just telling you, this is crushing it. Gold and silver, Rife Technology, AquaCure Hydrogen Brown Gas. People are buying Mineral King left and right. People are buying Mineral King. I'm getting hit up all the time.
Nice.
Mineral King, Mineral King, Mineral King, Mineral King. There we go. Very happy for Pat. Chemical Free Body, talking about getting my own supplements. Harley Ray. And then EMF Rocks. Then we have Joel Staley, who I'm going to start taking up on the workout because I'm feeling good, dude. Got told I got 4 months till my blue belt.
Nice.
Good job, dude.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Is
Yeah.
the blubber guard, the flubber guard, has that been working for you?
Yeah,
Just the laying on the guy.
Yeah. You use your weight as a weapon. You just gave me an eating disorder. Brain Supreme, we love them. And Prometheus, get into your own thing. Get your own website, decentralized. So what else is going to happen is the three of us, Johnny got nuked on Twitter. Guess what? I'll never get nuked on. Nuke Social.
Yeah.
Johnny, please join one time a week. Jump on there, talk to people. Okay, YouTube, please.
I got it. We're on it.
Upload your shit, please. Get on there. Let's grow.
So I'm going to put all my racist stuff on Nuke.
Yeah,
so.
put all your racist shit on there.
Yeah, you can put whatever got you
Telegram,
banned.
Join Zero. Next one, what else?
It's the new Stormfront. Come check out
and
Nuke
then I'm going to
Social.
be put up doom scrolling every Tuesday at 2:30.
Live.
What do you got?
Hit that like button, subscribe, and then I got a new poker vlog where I actually lose some money this time. So if you're a hater of mine, go to Extreme Marks Spot and I lose some money. So go
I
watch
love
it.
that. If you hate me, you'll love this.
Go check out Broken Sam, new one just dropped. We got into all the crazy shit going on in the government, and then talked a little bit about why the Epstein files haven't released. Sam, his dad's girlfriend hates him. It's like one of the funniest stories about how much his dad's girlfriend just hates his
Hates
ass.
me.
Yeah, and I guess check me out on Instagram, Johnny A. Woodard or something. I don't know. I'm using the Broken Sim Twitter account right now.
Can you just turn it over?
Well, I think I'm going to make a new one for me, and then I want to keep that one though because we need one for the podcast. That's what
Okay,
I'm talking
Johnny. Great sacrifice. Guys, enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
about. By the way, that Downs that you tweeted is the hottest Downs I've ever seen.
Johnny, right there?
Yeah,
I mean, my
here's this
God.
guy, first of all,
Anyways.
are you sure that's? He said lettuce. Is that like wink wink lettuce? and it
No,
was
that's
like drugs?
literal lettuce.
That's so strange. But yeah, then you also
And then
sent
somebody
out-
say he looks like my son.
this is the hottest Downs I've ever seen.
Drop top, smoking, no cooking, the hot box. Fucking on
What
your
is
bitch
going
shit.
on with these Downs?
That's
Like-
the hottest Downs I've ever seen, right there, though.
Yeah,
Like,
the
by
other
far.
time we saw Downs that hot was an AI, and now God was like, "Oh, you think your AI is better than this?"
That's like a. Oh, dude, come on.
And she's like straight up, like you go to her like you see her page, she's like talking about how she has Down syndrome. And then there's that other.
I mean, she can't be any dumber than most hot chicks.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly.
she's probably on par, but every guy is just like, "Would can they get pregnant?"
It's not often. This is another way the Downs are evolving. It's not. They used to be all out of shape.
Yeah,
all the Downs used to be out of
The
shape.
Downs used to have dad bods, bods.
Even the girls, yeah, they had dad bods. Yeah,
Yeah, everybody now they're shredded.
yeah, you're right, dude.
It's unbelievable.
You were so on top of that trend, by the way, more
Thank
than
you.
anything else. The Downs
Thank you.
rising.
Dude,
trend.
I've been talking about the Downs for a long time.
Yeah.
You go back to my first special in the Viper Room. I had a great bit about special needs people being hung like horses.
You should get the Lifetime Achievement Awards from the Downs.
The Downs. I mean, do
Association.
they have an award show where they get like?
They must, right? For like fundraising.
Yeah, but look at her. Like Johnny, let me ask you something. If she gets an OnlyFans, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
We're getting a trial.
Okay.
We're getting a trial at the very least. There is the World Down Syndrome Awards.
Oh, really?
Correct.
What are some of the awards?
Well, let's look and see right here. There they are. The World Down Syndrome Awards.
She's racking it up.
Hottest Downs. Yeah, she's
Hottest Downs.
Meet the awardees, students for inclusion, University of Malaga.
Okay, they all have masks on, so we know they're retarded, right? For sure. That kid's special needs. Those people with masks are retards, right?
Employable, Canadian Down Syndrome Society, La Casa de Carlota. That's something in Spain. Make your voice heard. These Trisomy 21 France. Down Syndrome Advisory Network. I guess it's just groups that get like there's one award and you can get it. I'm gonna nominate.
Do you think she even wants to hang out with them?
Oh no!
Like the hot Downs wants to hang out with these Downs, and she's like, "No, go away."
No, she's like Mean Girls for them.
Yeah, she's totally Mean Girls, right?
Yeah.
That go away with me.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app, or check us out at youtube.com/Sam Tripoli.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind. Tinfoil hack.